Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out why didn't Britain ever try to retake the United States?
After the American Revolution and the birth of the United States, the British were somewhat unhappy, and many there never really got over the loss.
Huh.
So why was it then that over the next century the British never made any attempt to retake some or all of the United States?
Just from this map, that wasn't that much. We were just a tiny little group of farmers and a couple blacksmiths and slaves. We didn't even have Florida at the time. It's Spanish right then. Why didn't they try to take it? We did, however, have parts of Canada up here.
Why simply accept that it was gone forever? So in the immediate aftermath of American independence, Britain wasn't really in a rush to change anything. Well, the new government across the pond wasn't exactly a high-functioning one. It's not change anything.
You suck. Try living less? Does that mean die? I think he wants us to die. George Washington back here in the back is giving some loaded side-eye.
Its new leaders couldn't agree on how the new country would operate.
What does it say? The plan, led by a governor, industrial economy, Jefferson is deported. They didn't like Jefferson? Hang on. Is that a joke or is that real? I'm not seeing anything about that. Not sure what that's about. Please continue.
Its new leaders couldn't agree on how the new country would operate, which meant that until new rules could be written, most of the old ones stayed in force. Meaning that there was a lot of money to be made without the cost of running the place.
We still get to trade with America. We don't have to pay to run the place. Oh, so those are the pros of not taking over America. Still get money, still get to sell them stuff, but we don't have to pay for hospitals and schools and libraries, airports. Apparently there were airports at the time, according to one of our former presidents.
Which was a bonus. Now, eventually, the US would draft its constitution, which would then...
Wait, what does it say? Article 1, Section 8, Congress can regulate trade with other nations, meaning that new rules are in place. Thus, the Brits have to pay tariffs now. Oh, bite us, Congress. Whoa. Oh, bite us, Congress. Not bite us, Congress. Okay.
Now, eventually, the US would draft its constitution, which would then limit foreign trade.
Pay up,
This
nerd.
wasn't a good enough reason to declare war, though, and Britain wasn't actually that worried about America's continued independence. You
Okay.
see, the prevailing belief in Parliament was that monarchy was the most natural form of government.
Types of government. 1, glorious monarchy. 2, brutal savagery. 3, whatever the Romans did. Okay.
And that as such, the new American Republic was doomed to failure. Throughout the Revolution...
Whoa. So at first I read, if only we'd had a king, but then I saw, there's a dead body hanging from the ceiling, y'all. A dead body. With no feet.
And that as such, the new American Republic was doomed to failure. Throughout the Revolution and shortly afterwards, many American revolutionaries actually saw themselves as English, or at least close to it. And in London, the belief was that they'd soon learn the error of their ways and move to bring back a monarchy. And since there were no American nobles, they'd inevitably have to turn to Britain, and who better than King George? And from there, the slow but inevitable process of reincorporating America into the empire would begin.
Oh. So, okay. After the Revolutionary War, aka the American War for Independence, the Brits thought, you know what? We can still trade with them and make money. Take their money. And we don't have to pay to keep it going. We don't have to pay for, like I said, libraries and schools and airports, post offices. And the Brits thought, surely America is gonna need a king. But they don't have any royalty. There's no nobles in America. So they're gonna come back to King George. Of course. Who else would rule over America? George Washington? A peasant. He's a muggle. He can't rule.
Now, obviously this never happened, but given Britain's own flirtation with republicanism in the
Off you
17th
go.
century, it wasn't an unreasonable belief. Now, shortly after the Constitution was signed, France...
If you've managed to stay awake reading the previous pages, then congratulations. We all agree to this and sign our names. Oh, that's the Declaration of Independence.
Was signed, France had itself a revolution, and between then and 1815 was in a constant state of war with Britain. As such, the British had more pressing issues, which led to it impressing sailors sailing under the US flag. This led to the War of 1812, and it was the last time that Britain could have realistically retaken some of the United States.
So in 1789, the French Revolution happened. And from then to 1815, they were in constant war with Britain. So Britain had their hands full. They're like, we don't need America. Just keep selling them stuff, getting their money. We don't want to pay for their schools and their libraries and their airports. We have Napoleon to deal with. Meanwhile, the British were intercepting American trade ships with France because of their wars with France. And America was like, hey, you can't do that. We don't like that. And so the United States declared war on Britain for that. But in that time, it looks like the Louisiana Purchase happened. Florida is still Spanish, but the United States has this little bit of Louisiana and all that.
The War of 1812 pressing issues which led to it impressing sailors sailing under the US flag. This led to the War of 1812, and it was the last time that Britain could have realistically retaken.
Wait, what do they mean by impressing sailors? Does that mean kidnapping? Impressment, or press gang, as it was more commonly known, was recruitment by force. It was a practice that directly affected U.S. and was even one of the causes of the War of 1812. The British Navy consistently suffered manpower shortages due to the low pay and lack of qualified seamen. That's what she said.
So, did it try? Well, yes. Lord Liverpool, the Prime Minister at the time, wasn't trying to conquer all of the United States, but he did want to expand Britain's holdings at the expense of the US. You see, the border between British America and the US wasn't really well defined, and the British wanted to bring the border to here and annex Maine and turn it into the colony of New Ireland. The British had occupied much of the area during the war, and so long as the rest of it went well, it was believed that the Americans would simply give it up. But during the peace negotiations, Britain never asked for a single inch of territory. So why not? Well, the first reason was that London's primary concern was the redrawing of the map in Europe.
What's up with France? Look at France! What? Oh my god! Is that all France? Hang on. What? Whoa, look at Germany. Wait, this is Germany here, right? What is that? We need country names on this map, y'all. What year are we looking at? We'll say 1812. 1815? European map. Oh, this looks a little bit different. Okay. Prussia. Warsaw? Wait, so this is Austria. Austria is gigantic. The Empire of France. Confederation of the Rhine. Kingdom of Italy. Wow. Kingdom of Spain. Kingdom of Portugal. They're kingdoms. Kingdom of Sardinia. So this yellow part is Austria. This light blue part is the Kingdom of Rhine. Oh, Confederation of the Rhine. Oh. Okay. And then this is Prussia. The Netherlands is still the Netherlands, but I guess it was part of the Empire of France at the time. It's crazy to think that the shape of the European nations is not that old. Really, since World War II, is it the way it is now? That's, wow. It's not even 100 years old. I mean, the way it stands now.
Well, the first reason was that London's primary concern was the redrawing of the map in Europe to prevent future wars becoming Britain's problem. The primary concern was that France wouldn't accept the changes and that war would begin again. As such, it was decided that Britain would offer a return to pre-war everything, and the Americans agreed. In the decades and century after this, British attention was firmly focused on expanding in India and later Africa, as well as the looming confrontation with Russia in Central Asia. As such, North America took a back seat, and by the mid-19th century, the US was far too great a power for the British to ever risk war without potentially losing Canada, and so they did nothing. And so the dream...
Okay, they lost the chance because they were dealing with so much other stuff. So this is the newer map of Europe. This must be Austria here. Italy is still broken up into a few different places. France looks like it does now. The UK basically looks like it does now, other than the Republic of Ireland. Netherlands. This is now Luxembourg and Belgium. Is that right? Interesting that they wanted Maine. I wonder why. I guess because it was just close to what they already had. They already had troops there, probably, nearby.
It had occupied much of the area during the war, and so long as the rest of it went well...
Plan to win. Borrow American sailors. Borrow, nice. Occupy Maine. Burn down the White House. They almost did that, y'all. Win at New Orleans. I don't think that happened.
As such, North America took a back seat, and by the mid-19th century, the US was far too great a power for the British to ever risk war without potentially losing Canada, and so they did nothing. And so the dream of reincorporating a single inch of American territory was dead forever. I hope you enjoyed this episode with a special thanks to my patrons, James
Okay.
Bisonet, Kelly Moneymaker, Sky Chappelle, Katoitska, Anthony Beckett, Rod D. Martin, Yuduan Wang, Marcus Arsner, Wyan
gonna read
Hockey,
all of
Alex
them?
Schwinn, AF Firefly, Captain Psydog, Spencer Lightfoot, Gustav Swan, The McWhopper, Shuwenin, Marvin Cassow, Winston Kaywood, Spinning 3 Plates, Andy McGeehee, Kamoon Yoon, Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Todd Short, Copper Tone, Maggie Patskowski, Words About Books Podcast, Jim Stroomberg, Miss Izet, and Charles I.
Okay. This is interesting. Y'all be sure to go to History Matters and like and subscribe. So I know they did actually burn down the White House, right? Oh, yeah. There it is. Wow. Look what y'all did to our Capitol building. Look what you did. Kidnapping our sailors. Anglo-American tensions stem from long-standing differences over territorial expansion. In August 1814, British troops captured Washington before American victories at Baltimore and Plattsburgh. In September, ended fighting in the north in the southeastern United States. Let's look at that area of Maine. Show me on a map. Maine. There it is. I mean, what's there? Really? Right? They wanted this stuff up here. Let's see what's up here. This is interesting looking. Are these farms? They are. Is it good farmland? Potatoes, apples, dairy products, blueberries, eggs, tomatoes, maple syrup. Oh, maple syrup. I have her. Okay, yeah. Wow. That's a lot of $129 million of potatoes, $118 million of dairy products. Maybe it would have been worth it, you know? The United States Army was initially much larger than the British Army in North America. Many men carried their own long rifles while the British were issued muskets. I guess muskets are more shorter range, except for one unit of 500 riflemen. Leadership was inconsistent in the American officer corps, as some officers proved themselves to be outstanding, but many others were inept, owing their positions to political favors. Good old boy stuff. Congress was hostile to a standing army, and the government called out 450,000 men from the state militias during the war. The state militias were poorly trained, armed, and led. It sounds like it was amazing that it stopped. They had 8 ships on all of the Great Lakes, and that was enough to keep the Americans under control. While the British Army was engaged in the Peninsular War, few reinforcements were available. Although the British were outnumbered, the long-serving regulars and fencibles were better trained and more professional than the hastily expanded United States Army. It's so complicated and messy, isn't it? Wow. So if they just had more people, they could have taken the United States back. If Napoleon wasn't around, there wouldn't be a Napoleonic War. Or maybe it'd just be called something else. If there wasn't a French Revolution, there'd be some French king. There might be a war with a French king. I don't know. History's crazy, y'all. This world we live in, so wild. Well, I'm glad we're allies now, and we can have fun videos like this. It's so strange to think that we were enemies at one time. It's strange, just similar to like Ukraine and Russia. Like what? Suddenly you're enemies? Weren't you just getting along? I mean, the people on the ground, I don't know about the governments, but people on the ground. I know a guy from Ukraine. He lives in Los Angeles now, and he has family in Ukraine and Russia. And like what? It's weird. I'm glad we're allies. Oh, just spilled coffee on myself. Stained forever. Well, thank you all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later. Oh, I'd like to thank my patrons. Thank y'all. See you later.